So we're going to bring up TasteMakerX and Mark Ruxin, and we're going to talk about a social music discovery game mechanism. Thank you very much for coming here.
Bunch.
We welcome them to the stage with clapping. 5 minutes. It'll start when you begin. Good luck.
So my name is Mark Ruxin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of TasteMakerX. And I want to start by saying, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be that guy. I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. I wanted to be the dude that discovered the Pixies and every other band ever since then. And I think all music fans aspire to be a tastemaker. And if they don't aspire to be a tastemaker, they at least aspire to have good taste. To solve that problem, we built a discovery engine based on a game mechanic. We want to connect people to turn them on to music, and we want to connect people to the artists that they love in a much more differentiated way than the modern social nets. So we're trying to fix 4 problems, and these problems have been around for a long time, and they're only getting worse given the decreased cost in distributing music and also the just proliferation of bands across the world. So music discovery is still fundamentally broken. There's too much noise, and there aren't clear filters. We need curation. That's the biggest problem on the web. Algorithms only get you some percentage of the way. People turn people onto music, not algorithms. And then lastly, social media is flat and delineated. So if you're Aaron and you have hundreds of thousands of likes or follows, they're completely undifferentiated to you. Every like is like every other like, but wouldn't it be cool if you knew who your 50 most important fans were, the people that were there at the beginning and will be there with you at every show? So again, people turn people onto music, and I think in a world where physical media is dead, the guy at the record store who used to insist that you buy the record, the Jack Black guy in the movie that said, you must listen to this record, that person doesn't exist anymore. You have all these signals from all these different platforms, but it's really people that turn people onto music. So we're trying to solve the discovery problem through a game. And I think for the longest time, games have been the most fun way to learn and discover things. So you learned about geography and risk, and you learned about real estate and monopoly. Our North Star is really fantasy sports. So I don't like the word gamification, but the only ever global gamification of anything really is fantasy sports. It's 50 years old. It crosses cricket and baseball. And the people that play those sports know every player on every team. So if you could apply that to music, you would know that the drummer from a band called Clarissa's Weird would go on to found Band of Horses. If you were really looking for the next big thing through a game mechanic that was fun, that was social, that you played with your friends, you would learn more about bands, as opposed to turning on a Pandora station, glazing over after time, and just assuming that they're going to do the work for you. Pandora is a great service. I use it. I've been using it for a long time, but it's really the person that used to tell me what to listen to. So we took the Hollywood Stock Exchange from the late 90s and we mashed it up with fantasy sports from today to connect people to people. We built an influence graph like Clout so that you would actually know it's not just that they like the artist, it's that they liked the artist before they were big. And I think the game that people have always been playing around music is, I was into that band first. In fact, I took my investor to see Local Natives last night at Stubbs, and he was standing next to me, and he'd never heard them, and he's like, these guys are going to be huge. And all he had to do was look around the venue, and they are going to be huge, and they're great. So we built a private, shit-talking fantasy league where people can throw down to prove that they're the best at picking bands. We've programmed a web environment so that you can listen to music on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, soon Rdio, and Apple. So I can go to your page if you've built a collection, press play, and we'll spin a smart playlist for you. And we have bios, news, tweets, and everything else. We've got a price that shows you if the artist is trending. We have tour dates through Songkick. So it's much more than just a game. And it looks like this. In a world where you can't stand in front of somebody's record collection anymore and know instantly that they've got great taste, you're going to have a collection online. And if Pinterest has shown anything to us, it's that people desperately care about self-expression. And I think if you don't have a record collection in your living room, how cool is it to have it online and one that you can listen to from somewhere else? So if you're at the show, we want you to add artists to your collections and prove that you knew that they were going to be big, or support the artist and show that something is happening in real time. If your favorite artist is Lord Huron, and you don't know anyone else that likes that band, if you follow that person and look inside their collection, you'll find a whole bunch of other bands that are just like Lord Huron. Fantasy League is the place where people can really throw down and prove that they're better. We didn't want to corrupt the site like MySpace did with ads, so we give people notes to play the game, which is the currency, and we'll sell them more if they want to be the biggest fan of their favorite artist. Brands have approached us to to sponsor these environments, and I think that's kind of it. What's good for artists is hopefully good for fans, and back again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good job.
Certainly a lot easier in a 5-minute presentation, huh?
The extra 3 minutes was awesome.
It was.
Thank
It
you.
was awesome for me,
Thank you
too.
for that, Evan.
So as an artist, Aaron, what do you think about that? Sorry to throw it to you like that, but
No problem. Okay. Well, I'm a big fantasy sports person, so
That's a good start.
I appreciate that. But for me, I have a couple just gut reactions to this, and one is that I probably are. If I don't know who my 50 greatest fans are by now, I'm not doing my job, and I've probably done that another way. There's obviously that's important thing these days, but I feel like there might be other ways for me to do that and have a different, more one-on-one relationship with those 50 people. Fan funding programs, situations like that. I mean, there's a number of options. So that's my first reaction, and then I think my second reaction is. I'm wary of these kind of platforms in the sense that I feel like they're pretty susceptible still to outside influence of brands or advertisers, or there's a space in there where someone who can manipulate or buy your attention towards one artist or another. I don't see it as a level playing field, so that if you really like this obscure artist, you really have an opportunity to help them blow up. My last reaction is I don't know that blowing up is good for every artist, and I don't know that every type of music should blow up in some ways, or that's the best thing for that music community. So that metric of like, let's blow it up, I'm not totally interested in. But I do like sports.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I have a question actually for Aaron about being into fantasy, right? So I'm not a fantasy sports guy, but when I listen to Mark and I look at this pitch, I start thinking in the abstract about why fantasy is so big and so successful. And I think naively, I mean, you could tell me as someone who knows, that it has everything to do with sort of competition and winning and losing being at the heart of your emotional connection to sports. I mean, in the end, it's all about who wins, who loses, and how and why, and agonizing over the defeat and celebrating the win. And so it's very much in the DNA of being a sports fan for it to be a competitive landscape, a horse race, right? My connection to music has nothing to do with that. The artists I love win with me every game, every day. There's never a loser, and those that don't win with me, don't lose, they're just invisible to me, right? I don't have that emotional stake in the rise and fall of a stock price. Just talk to me a little bit about how you see the relationship between sports and music in terms of gamification or fantasy.
Well, I responded to your pitch from the position of being a music maker, not necessarily from the piece of being a music fan, which is more what you're talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or just, why, I'm a sports fan, but I'm a music maker, so I'm approaching this from different side. But, I would think for me, as a musician, I resist that winning and losing kind of like competition thing. And I do agree that music doesn't hold up well, I don't think, or that's not the best environment for a diverse emotional and financial marketplace, as well as like taste. So I could see the connection being, though, I could see the connection in the sense of like, what you like, you want to pass on to other people. I mean, the thing about sports for me is that it's never predictable. I mean, that's the thing I love about sports is like you have to watch the game. So
do you guys have how many people are using the system? Is it in beta? Has it launched?
So we launched a private beta on iOS only last year. We launched the web platform this summer, and we came out of beta with this new collections front end last week. So the idea, and all points taken, Aaron, you would know exactly how you want to communicate with your fans. For us, one of the things we're trying to do is turn people on to turn them on to the people that are going to turn them on to music. And if there are 12 people on the planet who are your Sherpas, anyone that loves music knows there's no better feeling than giving somebody a record or an artist that will be with them for the rest of their life. And I think it's impossible to do that these days. So if you're record collection that only some percentage of people used to be able to see is now available to the world. And I can go to your page and press play, and we'll spin a smart playlist without you having to go and make a Spotify playlist and then me subscribing it and putting it on my phone. We've done everything that we want to do, which is, provide a signal for people to see what's trending, give people the ability to democratize the A&R process. You don't have to be a journalist, a label honcho to do it. So, I think everybody, music is a global passion. Sports is a local passion. So, it'll be interesting to see how it spreads.
I will say, sorry, Larry, just really quickly, the part of this that resonated most with me as a music fan, because you talked about a bunch of things, and actually as a small note, I think too many things. I think there are multiple companies within every one of the categories that you described when you get into discovery and social and music and fantasy and influence. But the part of it that I thought really rung true for me as a fan is that ability to share with and influence people who love the things that I like. That feels good, that's good karma, it's gratifying, it does make you feel like you're a tastemaker or you're important or you're early on something. The one thing I would caution you about data and transparency is that it's well known that there were 100 times the number of people at the Hollywood Bowl when the Beatles were there as could fit inside that bowl. And so when you bring too much transparency to the sort of origin stories and I was early on that band and I was there, it undermines the real point, which is not proving it or getting it right, but personal mythology. And maybe I was there, maybe I wasn't, but I would have been there because I was into them and I wanted to be, and it treads, I think, a little bit on our sense of ownership.
One of the things I brought up earlier, which I think you were talking about in terms of the gamification, it's the only, I love what you guys are doing as well. And maybe you sort of helped me articulate it better, was that when you start, I think on the front end with gamification, what inevitably happens is that even if you share music with someone that they really love, the challenge is that that sort of gamification is still in your mind, and you don't want to lose. So like we were talking before, is that we know that's sort of the way things are. People discover a band early on, but once they're popular, they bail. So when you gamify on the beginning, you might want to bail. The gaming stays through. You might want to bail before that artist jumps the shark, so you're not attached to them on the way down. So I'm just saying that if it's a game in, it might be.
Yeah, so lots of people have that reaction. The only reason that we have one of the reasons that we have a game mechanic is because some people love it, right? So we launched last year. There were people that trade 50 times a day. I wish I was as interested in my own product as these people, but I'm glad that they are. I think the reality is that if we just built a Pinterest-like front end, you would have a bunch of ads. And it wouldn't solve any problems for you. And as a fan, I wouldn't be able to say, I was there when you played, on 6th Street at midnight in a non-showcase spot. So I think if we don't encourage people to differentiate how much they care about a band, we won't be able to produce a signal, which is this artist is trending now, whether it's Amanda Palmer's TED Talk last week or some band that got tweeted by Dave Grohl. So
how much have you looked into the science of the Iowa predictive market, the electronic? There's a lot of studies about how these things operate. Is that science a big part of the engine that's driving this, or is this all people?
This is people-powered music discovery.
So
These are people voting with their hearts. And voting with your hearts isn't a tweet that you'll never look at again.
No, I understand.
It's saying this.
But the Iowa predictive market takes crowdsourced stuff that people are doing and removes the ability for people to game the system, right? When you don't have those mechanisms in place, and I think you had brought that up at the beginning. So how do you keep people from gaming the system?
You can't really game the system. We give you X amount of currency to play with, and you're either all in on one artist or you buy a share of 25,000 artists. And if your portfolio grows, you continue to evolve your collection. So you can't really.
So there won't be any sock puppets on your site?
No sock puppets.
Okay.
We've raised money from great investors, but not for sock puppets.
Yeah, so one thing I really like is how much you've been iterating on the product, because you came out here last year, you got it out in the market, you're getting feedback, and you're making big changes. And I think that ability as a startup to keep your business really dynamic is key. So I'm really impressed to see that, and I'm really looking forward to checking out that web version, because I resonate very deeply with that notion of feeling kind of ownership and discovery, of key bands at different times. So I think it's a really good premise as well. So.
Well, thanks. The good thing about software is people tell you what they like and they hate, and you can react. So people said, some people said, we hate the stock market in an Occupy Wall Street kind of world. We hate it, and so we have collections and collectors, and you buy records, and hopefully the metaphor is clever and cute, but we reacted to the
Got about 10
audience.
seconds left.
All right. Can you give a quick reaction to connecting the sort of the stats and the winning aspect?
No, because we got 2 seconds left. Yeah, that's all the
smile.
time we got.
Just
Sorry.
smile.
Give
Thank
Larry
you.
a thumbs up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right. Good job.